The morning of Emily's birthday felt like the kind of morning where nothing could possibly go wrong. The air was clean, the sky stretched wide and blue above our little suburban street, and the sound of kids laughing carried from backyards where sprinklers were already spinning. My wife Lena had been up since dawn, blowing balloons and checking her list 3 times. Emily was only turning 8 once, and Lena wasn't about to let anything spoil it. I helped string the purple and pink streamers across the fence, pretending I knew what I was doing, while Emily twirled in the driveway showing off her unicorn dress to anyone who would look. She was buzzing with energy, bouncing between the tables, running to the bounce house, then back again just to check if the cupcakes were still arranged perfectly. It should have been the perfect day. Our neighbors across the street even came, over early, arms loaded with gifts and folding chairs, smiling like they were happy to see the block alive again. For weeks, people had been whispering about how quiet things felt since the last HOA meeting, how maybe things were settling down. But I knew better. Rick Thompson might have been forced to step down as president after the stunt with his so-called enforcers, but his shadow still hung over the neighborhood. And then there was Maggie, the self-appointed queen of complaints, who had stepped into the power vacuum like it was her destiny. She had been sniffing around for weeks, knocking on doors, pretending to be friendly while fishing for gossip she could twist into violations. We all knew she was waiting for her moment. Unfortunately for her, and for me, that moment came during my daughter's party. By noon, the backyard was alive. Kids bounced until their hair clung to their foreheads with sweat. Parents lounged in lawn chairs, and the smell of grilled burgers drifted over the fence. Lena kept the lemonade flowing while Emily squealed each time another classmate arrived with brightly wrapped gifts. I was halfway through flipping a tray of burgers when I caught the unmistakable click of heels on the sidewalk out front. My stomach sank. I didn't even need to turn my head to know who it was. Maggie. She walked like she owned the street, clipboard tucked under her arm, sunglasses perched like she was some kind of celebrity arriving at a premiere. She stopped at the end of our driveway, one manicured hand on her hip, and scanned the decorations like a general surveying enemy defenses. A group of kids ran past her, giggling, carrying party hats, and she stepped aside with an exaggerated grimace, as though fun itself offended her. Lena noticed too. She froze for a second, lemonade pitcher hovering above a glass, before flashing me the look we'd practiced. Don't escalate. Let her make the first mistake. Maggie didn't disappoint. This gathering appears to be in violation, she announced loud enough for half the block to hear. I count more than 10 cars parked on the street. That exceeds the residential event limit established in last quarter's addendum. I set the spatula down and walked toward her slowly, keeping my voice steady. It's my daughter's birthday, Maggie. People are parked legally. No one's blocking driveways. We're good. Her lips curled into the kind of smile that wasn't a smile at all. That bounce house, for instance. Did you file for a temporary structure permit? Because according to Section 14, any inflatable device over 8 feet requires board approval. The kids screamed with joy as one of them launched down the slide, landing in a heap of laughter. Maggie's eyes narrowed at the sound like it was nails on a chalkboard. I wanted to tell her to turn around and leave. I wanted to remind her she had no authority, not anymore, not after everything that had come to light. But Lena's eyes held me. Calm, steady. Don't give her the satisfaction. Enjoy the party, I said instead, turning back toward the grill. But Maggie wasn't here to enjoy anything. She was here to shut it down. Within minutes, she had her phone out, snapping pictures of cars, decorations, even the grill. Parents exchanged uneasy glances, whispering under their breath. One of the kids asked why that lady looked so angry. Emily noticed too. She clutched her unicorn balloon tighter, eyes flicking toward the driveway where Maggie scribbled notes like a detective building a case. Then Maggie did what Maggie always did. She escalated. She dialed a number on her phone, speaking loud, enough for everyone to hear. Yes, hello, this is Margaret Ellis, community representative. We have a large unauthorized gathering at Willow Lane, number 43. Possible fire hazard. Yes, multiple code violations. You'll want to send someone immediately. Lena gasped. She called the fire department? I clenched my fists. This wasn't about safety. It was about control. Maggie couldn't stand that people were happy, that our yard was filled with life she couldn't dictate. When the fire truck pulled onto the street 15 minutes later, red lights flashing, the entire party froze. Parents hushed their kids, neighbors peeked from behind curtains, and Maggie stood proudly at the curb like she had summoned the cavalry. She waved them down with exaggerated gestures, pointing toward our backyard. 2 firefighters stepped out, heavy boots crunching against the asphalt. One of them I recognized, Lieutenant Harris, a no-nonsense guy who'd inspected our smoke alarms last year. He looked from Maggie to me, already tired before she even opened her mouth. "These people are endangering children," Maggie declared. "That bounce house is a death trap. And the grill, propane, near paper decorations, it's a disaster waiting to happen." Harris raised an eyebrow. "Ma'am, let's slow down. We'll check things out." She crossed her arms. "You'll shut it down. That's your job, unless you want liability when something explodes." Emily's face crumpled. She clung to Lena's leg, whispering, "Mommy, are they gonna take my birthday away?" Lena bent down, smoothing her hair. "No, baby, it's fine. Daddy's here." I stepped forward, meeting Harris's eyes. "Lieutenant, everything's safe. Grill's 6 feet from decorations. Propane's secured. Bounce house was set up by a licensed company this morning. Anchored properly. Kids are supervised." He studied me, then glanced at Maggie, who was practically vibrating with anticipation. Finally, he motioned toward the backyard. "Let's have a look." We walked together while Maggie trailed close, muttering about bylaws. Harris checked the propane, inspected the bounce house anchors, even asked the rental company rep for paperwork. Everything was in order. No hazards, no violations. The kids waved at him as they bounced, and for the first time all afternoon, I saw him smile. He turned back toward Maggie. "Everything looks fine here." Her jaw dropped. "Fine? That inflatable could deflate any second. Look at the crowding, the noise. This is unacceptable." Harris's patience cracked. "Noise isn't my department. Neither is your personal vendetta. Unless you want me to cite you for filing a false report, I suggest you step aside." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Parents exchanged grins, kids cheered like it was part of the show. Lena squeezed my hand, relief flooding her eyes. But Maggie wasn't done. "You don't understand," she sputtered. "These people, he's dangerous. He assaulted HOA officers. He thinks he's above the rules." I felt every eye swing toward me. The old story, dragged out again like a weapon she couldn't put down. I stayed silent, letting Harris decide. But before he could speak, another voice cut through the tension. One I hadn't expected. "Leave them alone, Maggie." It was Mrs. Chen, our quiet neighbor from 2 doors down. She stepped into the yard, clutching a plate of dumplings she'd made for Emily. Her voice trembled but carried weight. "This is a child's birthday, not a courtroom. You should be ashamed." One by one, other neighbors nodded. Miguel crossed his arms, glaring at Maggie. "She's right. You've bullied us long enough." The tide was turning. Maggie's power, built on fear and silence, was cracking in the daylight. But she had one more card to play. She yanked the clipboard from under her arm and thrust it toward Harris. "Fine, maybe the fire department won't act. But I have enough signatures here to demand immediate HOA action. This party is over." The yard erupted in shouts. Parents, neighbors, even kids chimed in, voices blending into a chorus of defiance. Emily's tears dried as she watched strangers stand up for her day, her family. And in that moment, as Maggie's face turned redder than the fire truck lights, I knew this battle wasn't over. It was just beginning. The night after the party felt like a storm waiting to break. The laughter and cheers that had filled the yard were gone, replaced by a silence heavy enough to make the walls creak. Emily slept curled up with her new stuffed unicorn, dreaming away the chaos, while Lena and I sat at the kitchen table with mugs of coffee that had long since gone cold. Outside, the streetlights buzzed, casting long shadows across the empty road. Every time a car passed, my muscles tensed, waiting, expecting. Because I knew Maggie wasn't finished. She had been humiliated in front of the neighborhood, and people like her didn't forget. They plotted. They struck back when you least expected it. Sure enough, Just past midnight, the first sign came. A slip of paper shoved under our door. Lena found it when she got up for water, her scream waking me before I even registered what had happened. I grabbed the note from her hand. Block letters, bold and uneven, sprawled across the page. "You'll regret this. HOA justice never sleeps." I crushed the paper in my fist, my jaw tight. It wasn't just Maggie's style. It felt too theatrical, too desperate. Maybe someone else was involved. Maybe Rick Thompson, the disgraced president, still had his claws in this. He had disappeared after the scandal, but whispers said he still pulled strings. Lena gripped my arm. "We should call the police." I shook my head. "Not yet. That's exactly what they want. To make us look scared, weak." But I wasn't about to let it slide either. I checked the locks twice, then sat by the window until dawn, watching, waiting. The next morning, whispers had already spread through the neighborhood. Miguel stopped by while walking his dog, his eyes darting up and down the street. "She's furious, man. I heard her screaming on the phone last night. Said she's going to restore order no matter what it takes." I forced a smile, though my stomach churned. Let her try. But deep down, I knew it wasn't just empty threats. Maggie had a way of pulling others into her schemes, feeding their fear until they believed she was their savior. And if Rick really was still lurking, pulling her strings, then we were facing more than just a bitter neighbor with a clipboard. By afternoon, the proof arrived. A convoy of black SUVs rolled down Willow Lane, windows tinted, engines rumbling like a warning. They parked in a neat row outside Maggie's house, and men in matching jackets stepped out, their chests emblazoned with the bold letters, HOA Enforcement. Gasps spread across the neighborhood as curtains fluttered and doors cracked open. Parents pulled kids indoors, whispering about the cops, even though anyone with eyes could see these men weren't official. Their uniforms were close enough to trick the casual observer. Badges pinned, radios clipped, but the details were off. Too new, too polished, like costumes from a play. I stepped onto my porch, heart pounding, as the so-called officers lined up in formation. Maggie strutted out to meet them, clipboard raised like a commander greeting her troops. She pointed toward my house, lips moving in sharp commands I couldn't hear. Lena joined me, her voice low. "This is insane. They're not real cops. They can't be." I scanned their belts, the way they carried themselves. Maybe not real police, but they're trained. Look at the stance. Ex-military, maybe, or wannabes desperate for authority. Emily tugged at my sleeve, eyes wide. "Daddy, why are there police here again?" I knelt, forcing calm into my voice. "They're not real police, sweetheart. Just people playing dress-up. But don't worry, I won't let them hurt us." The line of enforcers started marching toward us. My fists clenched. Memories surged, training drills, late nights on deployment, the weight of combat gear pressing into my shoulders. I had walked into real battles before, and this was nothing compared to that. But the danger was still real. They wanted fear, control, obedience, and they thought they could get it from me. Not tonight. The first one stepped onto my lawn, barking orders about unauthorized gatherings and pending fines. His voice cracked when he tried to sound commanding, but the arrogance was enough to make my blood boil. I raised my hand. "This ends now. You have no authority here. Take one more step, and I'll treat it as trespassing." Maggie cackled from behind them. "You can't stop us. The board is with me. The community is with me. You're finished." But she miscalculated, because in that moment, doors all along Willow Lane opened. Neighbors poured out, not with weapons, but with cameras, phones raised high, recording every second. Miguel, Mrs. Chen, even the quiet couple from the corner lot. Dozens stood shoulder to shoulder, and their presence shifted the balance. The enforcers hesitated. Real authority thrives in the shadows, but in the light of 100 recording eyes, their bravado faltered. I stepped forward, voice carrying. "This is our neighborhood, our families. You don't scare us. You're done." The tension snapped. One of the enforcers shoved me, hard, and chaos erupted. Neighbors shouted, kids screamed, and Maggie shrieked orders that no one followed. I stumbled back, adrenaline flooding my veins, and then instinct took over. The fight was brutal, messy, and fast. I ducked a swing, countered with a strike to the ribs, felt the crack of bone beneath my fist. Another lunged at me, but Miguel intercepted, tackling him to the ground. Phones captured every second. The fake badges, the violence, the truth Maggie couldn't hide anymore. When the real police finally arrived, sirens wailing, the enforcers scattered like roaches. Maggie was left standing in the street, face pale, screaming about bylaws no one cared about anymore. Officers cuffed 2 of the imposters, questioned witnesses, and gathered evidence, and through it all, Lena held Emily close, whispering that it was over, that we were safe. But as I stood there, bruised and bloodied, watching Maggie scream into the night, I knew better. This wasn't the end. It was the spark. And the fire it lit would burn longer than any of us could imagine.